Right. So once again, warm greetings to all of you colleagues. I would like to welcome you to the RSK 4801 tutorial orientation for the 2026 academic year here with at Grad Consulting and Tutorials. So as you noted earlier, I did indicate it or circulated the communication uh, in the group indicating the purpose for this particular engagement today. It's not designed in any case to solicit anything from you, but all we are really attempting to do is to give guidelines where possible with regards to the module. So without any further ado, I just want to quickly take you briefly through the presentation that I'm going to project shortly. Right. So just a brief opening remarks. So GradQuest is a private tutorial institution specializing in academic support for students from undergraduate level all the way to the PhD level. Our team comprises highly of qualified tutors across diverse fields of study, particularly from the field of economics, management, and social sciences, the Science and Information Technology faculty, that is the BSc and IT faculty, as well as the Faculty of Law. The objective goal that we have is to help students or facilitate students to complete their qualifications in record time. We achieve this through a personalized, value-driven tutoring service designed to strengthen an understanding and academic performance. Our approach, we believe in teamwork and collaboration between the tutors as well as the students. By combining efforts, dedication, and expertise, we ensure that learners reach their academic milestones efficiently and successfully. So what I'm going to do is I take you through this journey. I'm going to give you guys the module content outline for this module. I'll also touch briefly around the assignment structures that you're going to come across in the module. And I'll also explain or expound a little bit further in terms of our tutoring or tutorial services provision that we actually offer. And then we're going to have a practical class discussion. Hence, I shared an assignment for the previous academic year, which is the second assignment for the 2025 academic year for the purposes of the class discussion therein. So without any further ado, I would like to take you through the module content outline, which is also known as the assumed knowledge. So with assumed knowledge, essentially, colleagues, this refers to the information or content in a module or in a subject that you would need to know or that you need to be abreast with to capacitate you enough in responding to questions that you would come across in the assignments, or even also with questions that you would come across during the examination period. So for the purpose of this module, these are the distinct chapters that you're going to come across. They are divided into parts or sections, particularly if you go through your prescribed textbook, which would show you guys at a later stage as we proceed with this discussion. So in part one, it deals with setting the scene. And under that particular section, it comprises of two chapters, which is chapters 1 all the way to chapter number 2. Under part 2, which deals with the framework, to be exact, that of course relates to the risk management framework. If you're looking at it from a practical point of view, this is dealt with in chapters 3 all the way to chapter number 7. I'm going to, of course, show you in the next slideshow the different chapters specifics, of course. And then in part number 3, okay, in part number 3, it deals with advancing the framework. And under advancing the framework part, this is dealt with in chapters 8 all the way to chapter 10 of your prescribed textbook. Part 4 deals with mitigation and assurance. And this is dealt with in detail in chapters 11 all the way to chapters 13 of this module. And in part 5, dealing with practical operational risk management. So This is dealt with in chapters 14 all the way to chapter number 16 of your prescribed textbook, right? And then proceeding further, getting into the details of things, the chapters that that I was referring to earlier, under part 1, chapters 1 and chapter 2. In chapter 1, it's more like the basic introduction, really, to the concept of operational risk. So hence it's titled, What is Operational Risk? Chapter number 2, it gives you details regarding to the business case of operational risk management. So this is also where you're going to learn around the benefits of operational risk management within an organization. Mind you, when it comes to risk management, you find this both from the private sector perspective. You also find the same thing even within the public sector perspective. So it's very important to take cognizance of that. And then in part number 2, which is the framework itself, when you look at a risk management framework of an entity, there is need for structure to be addressed, right? And that's where governance comes in, which is chapter number 3. Chapter number 4 deals with operational risk appetite. So you'd notice with some entities or under normal circumstances, particularly in the public sector, they have what they call operational risk appetite framework. So with the operational risk appetite framework of an entity, it gives details with respect to the level of risk appetite that the organization has at different level, from the board all the way to management and to junior employees within the entity. Chapter number 5 deals with risk and control assessment. Now, this is a very important and critical topic in this module, colleagues, and you'll discover this, of course, when we get to deal with practical questions and all of that. So with risk and control assessment, this is one of those processes that is carried out to help an organization identify its inherent risks, and also for them to be able to assess the efficacy of the controls that they have to mitigate the inherent risks that they might have identified. And also it is one of those that help them to also have a quantitative measurement in regards to the level of impact that it would have on the organization, but the probability of occurrence and likes. Then chapter number 6, colleagues, it deals with events and losses. So there are different types of events that can actually take place within an entity. Under normal circumstances, when we are evaluating the risk standing of an entity, normally we base that on what might have transpired from a historic point of view. So if we know what transpired in the past, under normal circumstances, it better prepares us as an entity towards what could take place in the future. Usually events in the past, they are likely, or they have a likelihood of repeating itself in future. But at the same time, there are certain events that might occur. A good example that I could give you is what transpired with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. It was something that most of the organizations at global level, they were not really prepared for. But, from a risk management perspective, as it is currently now, this is one of those angles that many organizations, they are ensuring that they brace themselves on. And so that's where chapter 6, events and losses, plays a factor. Chapter number 7, colleagues, it deals with indicators. So there are different forms of indicators that an organization can establish. So there's what they call key risk indicators. There's what they call key control risk indicators and key performance indicators. These 3 distinct indicators are not the same, but they do work hand in hand. That you will deal with in a greater detail in chapter number 7. Then under part number 3, dealing with advancing the framework, chapter 8 deals with reporting. So obviously there's a need for organizations or business entities rather to report on their risk standing. All right. So there's what we call risk assessment reports. It definitely has a structure that it has to follow so that the users, particularly those that carry the responsibility of key decision making, can actually be able to use the information conveyed to them. So there are different types of reports, okay, that we're going to deal with in a greater detail in chapter number 8. Chapter number 9 deals with modeling, and this is where you will be expected to know the different forms of graphs and likes that can be used, to convey a certain event. Chapter number 8, colleagues, it deals with stress tests and scenarios. And then going into part number 4, mitigation and assurance. With mitigation and assurance, I think two key things that you can take from that is the fact that there are collaborative efforts that comes from different role players as far as risk management within an entity is concerned. Hence, there's this aspect called enterprise risk management. So with enterprise risk management activities within an entity, it's not just only by the sole responsibility of management, but it involves all the various role players, even the board as well. And the assurance service providers also play a pivotal role in that regards. And to be exact, the third line of defense, which is the internal audit function. But that aspect, it will be dealt with in greater detail in chapter number 13. What you need to draw from that are the responsibilities of the internal audit function when it comes to enterprise risk management. Chapter 11 deals with business continuity. Chapter 12 deals with insurance. So obviously, insurance services play a very important role to entities at different sectors. For example, if it's a manufacturing entity or a company that is maybe say within the mining sector, okay, there is high likelihood that mining activities could be disrupted as a result of a natural disaster occurrence, or maybe as a result of a mining accident taking place, resulting in loss of maybe mining equipment, resulting in injuries being sustained, or death taking place, of the mining workers in those instances. So companies need to have immunity against such, and insurance actually is one of those that they need to actually have against such instances, right? And then lastly, part 5, practical operational risk management, which is of course from chapters 14 all the way to chapter 16. In chapter 14, we deal with outsourcing. So in some instances, you'll find that as a company, goes through what I call the business development stage, right? They start within what we call the beginning phase, where the company might still be small and they might not really need or require to have an in-house risk management department at that level. But as with time and with progression, they get to a stage where they would definitely need to establish a risk management department or division within their entity. But now let's talk about in an instance where they are really still starting, but they still need to address aspects or elements to do with risk management. So the best possible option at the table would be for them to outsource the expertise of risk practitioners. So those are some of the elements and attributes that you'll be dealing with in chapter 14. Chapter 15 deals with culture and people risk. Now, this is very important, colleagues, because the risk culture of an entity speaks a lot regarding to the integrity of that organization. So say, for instance, if the risk culture is one that is poor or one that lacks awareness, where people, they are not even aware regarding to, say, for instance, the risk management policy, which is in place, they are not even aware of the content that is conveyed in the risk management framework of the entity, or they are not even aware of the risk management strategy, perhaps, or there are no training workshops around risk management that are taking place for the various units in that entity. That does pose significant risk that obviously emanates as a result of inadequacy of risk culture within that particular organization. So obviously, chapter number 15, culture and people risk, it's one that unveils those aspects. And then lastly, reputational risk, or what they call reputation risk. It's the last chapter in this particular module. So all these chapters, colleagues, they are important to capacitate you enough to complete this module successfully. So if you go to your prescribed textbook, you would actually observe that it's really one of those that is lengthy, very much theoretical in nature, meaning to say you need to devote time to do your personal study to ensure that you have the background knowledge and understanding around all these chapter dynamics in this module. Right. And then I want to talk a little bit regarding to the assignments. What I've noted with RSK 4801, there are 4 essential assignments in this module. Irrespective of the structure that you see here, it might change, or possibly it might have already changed, depending. But what I know is that there's usually 4 assignments in this module. 2 of those are multiple choice assignments in nature, or what they call MCQ-based type of assignments. And then the other 2, they are essay-based in nature, or written assignments in nature, right? With MCQ ones, you'll be expected to complete them on the MyUnisa platform. With the essay based, obviously, you'll get a question, which will be in PDF format, and then you'll be expected to complete it and then upload it on the platform as well. So where do we come in? What we simply do, especially with the essay based, we help you guys to approach a question from a practical point of view. And that's what we're going to do during the class discussion, during the seminar, so that you can be able to see how we do things, right? So I think with regards to the assignments, that's all you need to know. But I think if also when you go through your tutorial letters 101, which is obviously on the platform, you'll be able to see this information. Right. And just to elaborate further in terms of our services, so we provide online tutorial classes, such as in the setup that we are having currently. And we normally offer that through Zoom. We also provide assignment guidelines, all right, and exam preparation bootcamps. So exam preparation bootcamps, these are actual classes where we discuss previous exam question papers, previous assignment questions, and how to tackle those questions, or how to actually approach those questions. Suppose you are in a situation where you are writing an actual examination. What is the actual, let me say, what is the appropriate approach and technique that one should apply in order for them to, to respond to the questions efficiently, meaning to say on a timely basis, and also effectively, meaning to say at the end of the day, being able to pass the module at the end of this academic year. Right. We also provide one-on-one consultations, research guidelines, and professional editing. But I think with this particular aspect about research guidelines and professional editing, it might not really apply to your case, but these are mostly relevant to those people that are doing their master's program and their PhD programs, right? Then what I would like us to embark on now is in discussion of the second assignment for the 2025 academic year. So we're going to look at literally all the questions that are conveyed there. It's a very short assignment. It's not that long. So what I will do now, I'll transition to share a different screen so that we can embark on this particular discussion of the assignment. So please just confirm if you can see my other screen currently. You can even give a thumbs up.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
All right. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So colleagues, I need to point this out, that when you approach an essay-based question, all right, the first point of departure is to evaluate what you are given in the required section of the question. Be it in the setup where you have an assignment question such as this, or be it in a case where you are dealing with, where you are looking into the actual examination question paper. So your point of departure is always to evaluate the required section. So now you discover that the case study that was given here in this particular assignment, it's a bit lengthy, but nonetheless, I'll try my level best to help us to go through this as quick, or rather as efficient as possible. Now, I must point this out. Colleagues, when you are dealing with essay-based questions, refrain from using ChatGPT. Refrain from using ChatGPT, or let me just say refrain from using anything that is AI in it. Why am I saying this? Because the Turnitin system, obviously, with tertiary institutions, I won't really want to point out specific names, but tertiary institutions at this level, they are aware that there is AI. They are aware of things like ChatGPT and likes. So if you are to use ChatGPT to assist you with your assignment, they are going to flag you for plagiarism, meaning automatically you get 0 for that assignment. That's number one. The same thing even in a setup where you're writing your exam, because obviously most of these, you're going to be writing them online, right? In the comfort of your home. You might have the liberty to search information on the internet and likes. I would advise you refrain from using AI even during your examination period. Avoid doing things like that. Why? Because they can automatically flag you for plagiarism and you get 0. They are very strict when it comes to this level of study program. So I advise you, please, by all means possible, refrain from AI. Rather try to apply general knowledge if need be. That you don't understand a particular question, rather apply general knowledge. It's even better and safer to do so than using ChatGPT and other AI tools that are out there. Right. So anyways, let's come back to this particular assignment question. So this is assignment 2 for the 2025 academic year. So in this particular assignment, colleagues, it comprised of a setup of 4 independent questions, but obviously some they related to the scenario that you were given. Now, if I look at the first, so let me just read from the questions part. You are appointed as the operational risk manager, responsible for leading a team to compile the report on the bank's operational risks based on the information provided in the case study. Now, you are required to perform the following activity questions. So what are the activity questions that you're given? So there's 4 of them, questions 1 all the way to question number 4. So we're going to evaluate all of them before we can even look into the case study. The same technique I'm giving you is the same that you should apply even during exam. So in question 1, you're asked to discuss the benefits of a sound operational risk report. Benefits of a sound operational risk report. Now, when I look at a question like this, it has nothing to do with me having to read the case study scenario first before I could actually respond to it. So when I look at this particular type of a question, what is transpiring there? So I just want to take a pen quickly. I need to put some footnotes here for you. So what is happening is this is a test of the assumed knowledge, colleagues. So it's a test of the assumed knowledge. I'm just going to try and abbreviate this for the interest of time. So what is happening here? This is test of So it's the test of the assumed knowledge, TAK. And then if you go to the second question, briefly discuss operational risk factors. Okay, see there are people that are trying to connect. Okay. Second question says, briefly discuss the operational risk factors and allocate the list of operational risks mentioned in the case study to each risk factor. Now, this particular question is one that is the application of the assumed knowledge to it. Now, when I'm saying application of the assumed knowledge, it means now your background understanding of context regarding to operational risk factors, you have to apply it, but on the basis of the context that is given in the case study. So meaning to say for this particular question, you first of all have to go through the scenario to answer the question. But with question 1, you really didn't need to go through the scenario to enable you to answer that particular question. See? So those are the differences. Now you do the same thing for all the questions that you're having in that context, so that you know which one to respond to first. In a context of an exam, you don't necessarily need to start with question 1 if maybe you're not as comfortable to answer question 1 per se. So you can actually, perhaps, if you're comfortable with question 4, for example, right, you can start with question 4. Then maybe you're comfortable with question 2 thereafter. Then you respond to question 2. And maybe question 1, you're not very comfortable with it. You leave it for later and then you respond to it at a later stage. What are you doing? That's effective time management that you're applying. Because in most cases, what I've discovered with students, even in times past, some, say for instance, say for instance, they don't perform well, right? It's not because they don't know, but usually it's because of failing to have effective time management or failing to have effective exam technique approach, so that you, at the same time, save yourself time, and being able to answer the questions that that are portrayed to you effectively. See. So if you look at question 3, they say explain the possible approaches to a risk and control self-assessment, RCSA process, and the potential benefits. Now, in a context of this one, I have to ask you, is this the test of assumed knowledge, or perhaps is the application of the assumed knowledge to the case? What can you guys say about this? Anybody would like to give it a try? Anybody would like to give it a try?
Assumed knowledge.
Assumed knowledge. Why are you saying assumed knowledge? Do you need the case study to answer the question? Yeah. All right. So with this particular type of a question, it's one way you can answer without really going through the scenario per se. But what you can do with a question like this, you can take some of the details which is portrayed in the scenario as examples, illustrative examples, especially when it comes to the part where they're saying possible approaches to a risk and control assessment. So you can take some of the detail conveyed in the scenario, as supporting evidence, to your argument. Say, for example, where you discuss the operational risk factors per se. Where you explain the possible approach to RCSA, right? So it's very important to take note of that. So in any case, in question 3, there are 2 ways of portraying your response. So the one part, you are explaining the possible approaches to RCSA, and then in the other part, you are explaining the potential benefits of a risk and control self-assessment. Now, this one is pure assumed knowledge. You don't need the case study to really give out, or rather to point out the benefits of performing a risk and control self-assessment. You see, right? Then lastly, question number 4, we are asked that the functions of the risk committee of the bank are structured and aligned with the 3 levels of risk management. Explain the roles of the 3 line of defense related to risk management. Now, my question to you, is this assumed knowledge or its application of the assumed knowledge to the case? This one is simple, guys, and straightforward. Explain the roles and the responsibilities of the 3 line of defense related to risk management. So clearly, colleagues, that's a test of the assumed knowledge. So you don't really need to really go through this scenario to really to enable you to respond to this particular question. So with that having been performed, the next stage that you then do is to then go through your scenario with direction, knowing that, okay, I know which parts of the question requires me to apply the case study. So when I go through the case study, now what I'm looking for a question, say, for example, that requires the application of the assumed knowledge, I'm identifying problem areas. So that's what I'm about to do. That will be your second step now. Okay, so let's do that exercise. So I just need to clear a few things here. Okay, perfect. So let's go all the way from where the scenario begins. So I'm going to also show you the mannerism in approach of evaluating a case study. So it's not just a matter of reading information, but you need to read information with direction so that you are capacitated enough to respond to the required, right? So now, case study operational risk reporting. Background information states that the purpose of a risk report is to inform a bank's stakeholders about its performance for a reporting period and address the various compliance reporting requirements. The information below regarding the 2021, 1 year after the COVID-19 pandemic, is provided for consideration for a risk report for the region bank. What do I take from that? That's purely background information regarding to the type of an organization we are going to evaluate as far as their risk management aspects are concerned. All right, so we are looking at a bank in this case, and then we are told that the kind of reports we are looking at there relate to the 2021 annual financial period in this case, right? Now, does it have anything to do with the problem? I mean, with the parts that we identified in the questions as, application of assumed knowledge related questions? Well, not necessarily, but you just need that information as a build up towards what you're going to read through as you further on with the case study. So, reporting structure. Now, the region bank's reporting structure entails the following. So they have a governance report, which discusses the bank's governance approach and priorities. They've got environmental, social, and governance report, which provides an overview of the bank's processes and governance structures relating to social and environmental matters. They also have annual financial statements, which are audited. And they also have risk and capital management report, which gives out details regarding to the bank's approach to risk management. And they also have a climate-related financial report, which provides details regarding to how the bank manages, or rather, how the bank manage its risks and responding to the opportunities presented by climate change. So what are we getting from this? They are simply trying to tell you the kind of reporting structure that is in place. So with the governance report, I already know, okay, fine. That means they have, a board of directors that definitely is in existence and that has the high level of authority as far as risk management matters in this entity is concerned, And then these other reports, obviously, yes, they are accompanying and supporting to other, supporting to the risk management report of the entire organization, right? And then we proceed further. We are told that the board of directors hereafter, the board plays a crucial role in the management and reporting of the bank. For the reporting period, the board must be satisfied of the following. So these, even before I read them, these are the goals and objectives of the board of directors of this organization. So these are things that they want or that they intend to achieve at the end of the day. So what is it exactly that they intend to achieve? One, that the bank's risk, compliance, treasury, capital management, and internal audit processes were operating effectively, that the bank's business activities were managed within approved risk appetite, that the bank is adequately funded and capitalized to support the execution of the approved strategy, that appropriate remedial actions were taken for instances that incurred losses, led to breach in the risk appetite, or actions that incurred fines or penalties by the regulators. All these are what? These are intended goals of the board. Now, colleagues, in part B, which we'll connect after the next 10 minutes, I will continue or I will proceed further from here to expound further. So what you do after 10 minutes from now, you're going to reconnect using the same link so that we can, complete the rest of this scenario and the other questions that we are to discuss. Thank you so much. So now it's 13:38. So by 13:50, can we read